This one just said, oh, you want connection? Connect to this, bitch. I have literal chills on my body. What do you mean? Yeah, I want to be one of them, but also I don't want to be kicked out. Hello, pals, and welcome back to my channel. I have my microphone down here. I normally don't have my microphone down at this angle, so I feel like I want to speak into it like this because I've been holding it recently, but that would just be stupid. Hi guys. How are you doing? I hope that you're doing so well today. In this video, we're going to be going through the books that I read in March. Yes. You heard me right. It is already time for the reading wrap up for the third month of this year, which is absolutely wild, cuckoo, and out of this world. But in this month of March, I did indeed have the chance to read eight books. I kind of put this video off. I was going to film it this weekend and put it up for you this weekend, but it got pushed back a little bit because I really thought that I was going to be able to pump one more book out, but I have not picked up a book since I finished the last book, which was Sunrise on the Reaping. That really took me out of commish. So I'm trying to recover emotionally from Sunrise on the Reaping, and since then I haven't read anything. So I read 8 books this month. And without further yapping, let's just go ahead and get into them. I'm going in chronological order. So the first book that I read in March was The English Understand Wool by Helen DeWitt. This was a novella, so it was very short. I think around maybe 75 pages or so. I got it through Libby from my local library. Almost all of these books I did not read a physical copy of. Actually, I think only 2 of them. So I got this through Libby and I read it on my Kindle. And this is a really short novella about a 17-year-old girl who was raised by a French mother and an English father in a very kind of posh French upbringing. And I know that the French sometimes have a certain stereotype around them, they don't like American people. They don't like it when American people try to speak French. It's kind of very upturned nose at Americans, and that's sort of how Margaret was brought up. Okay, she is avoiding anything that is a faux pas, anything that's going to bring negative attention to her. In this book, it is categorized as a mauvais ton, which I'm probably not pronouncing correctly, translates into the phrase bad taste in English, which I think it loses a little bit of its sentiment. It doesn't really directly translate in a way that really shows the impact, but it's basically a faux pas. And I think that that's probably the best way for me to think of it. Something that's tacky. Tacky is another good word for it, I think. Raised by uber rich people. Her entire life, she has done nothing but take very fancy vacations. And at 17, on one of her vacations with her mother, she finds out that her actual whole life is going to be flipped upside down. How will she be able to recover from this major mauvais ton that has happened to her? So it's a really fun book. It is very reminiscent to a Wes Anderson film. If you've ever watched Wes Anderson, I love Wes Anderson films, but they're just kind of goofy and quirky. She has the brain of a 75-year-old woman, but in a 17-year-old's body. She's so smart and witty and seems really worldly. I just really don't know how else to describe it other than book equivalent of a Wes Anderson film. And I can literally imagine the movie scenes cutting. So love Wes Anderson. And I really did enjoy The English Understand Wool. I gave it a 4-star, and I read this on the recommendation of Carrie Can Read here on YouTube, one of my favorite booktubers. And I totally get why she loved it so much, because I really did enjoy it. It was a good novella, a really interesting just piece of fiction. Kept me really entertained for 70 pages. So that's The English Understand Wool by Helen DeWitt. Would recommend. The second book that I regret to inform you that I read as a ARC advanced reader copy would be The Perfect Rom-Com by Melissa Ferguson. This book, I honestly forgot that I read this book until I went back and was looking on my Goodreads. I'm looking at my iPad. You can't see it, but my iPad's here. When I went back and looked at the books that I read in March and I saw this, I almost sighed out loud. That's how much I was not feeling this book. I very graciously rounded it up to 3 stars from 2.5 only because the ending of this book has a coup that is just like so funny and out of this world. And like logistically, how did they even do that? It's so comically insane that I had to round it up for the absolute gall that this author, Melissa Ferguson, had. I want to say that this entire book was a whole lot of nothing. Where is the love? It's called The Perfect Rom-Com. I expected some rom and some com. I didn't get any of that really until the very end. No rom, no com until the end. Honestly, that was me being nice. At this point, I would demote it down to 2 stars just because I like physically had a reaction to remembering that I read this book, like a negative connotation reaction. And I feel like the love story in this book, that whole story plot line is an afterthought to this main story of Bryony being a ghostwriter. This is about a girl who wants to be an author. Her name is Bryony. I can't even remember the main guy's name because that's how little I care about this book. His name was, it was Jack. Of course his name was Jack. Bryony is an aspiring writer and she meets up with Jack, who is a publicist or a literary agent, I think actually, and they kind of get together because she has this book that she really wants to sell and no one literally wants to buy it. It's like a weird book. It doesn't have a specific direction that it's going in, but Jack goes, hey, you have the balls to come and pitch this to me? I actually am looking for a ghostwriter for one of this like super famous author. Think of like a famous celebrity who's writing a book. They need a ghostwriter, and Bryony is just the person for the job. So Bryony goes in and she's a great ghostwriter for this girl named Amelia, who's absolutely horrible and terrible and like one of the worst people ever. So it's basically about Bryony trying to still get her own work published while being a ghostwriter for Amelia, and also kind of having this weird situationship with Jack, her literary agent. That's The Perfect Rom-Com by Melissa Ferguson. Gotta take a deep breath for this next book. The next book that I read, I have literal chills on my body. The next book that I read in March is Priest by Simone. I gave this book a 4 stars. It was blasphemous. It was smutty. It had some very unprovoked and like kind of almost out of place, deep and profound moments. We're talking about like the meaning of life in this smut book. I'm just going to read you the actual blurb from it because like I can't even tell you really about this book in a way without tripping over my words and sounding like a babbling idiot. This book is in a male main character POV for basically the entire book. So we are in male main character POV for a romance, dark romance, which is not something that I'm normally in for the entire book. But anyways, this book is about a guy named Tyler, and he is a, say it with me, priest. And I'm going to read the blurb now. There are many rules that a priest can't break. A priest cannot marry. A priest cannot abandon his flock. A priest cannot forsake his God. I've always been good at following the rules until she came. My name is Tyler Anselm Bell. I'm 29 years old. 6 months ago, I broke my vow of celibacy on the altar of my own church, and God help me, I would do it again. I am a priest, and this is my confession. This is the first book in the Priest series, but all of the books work as standalones. I gave it 4 stars. It was very smutty. It was a very good read. It did have a lot of things in it that kind of felt out of place considering the book's content. Not saying that a book can't be smutty and also have some like intellectual introspective moments, but it just really felt out of place considering the context of this book. Sorry. I would recommend Priest if you're looking for a very good smutty book. It is very blasphemous, so I would just go into that knowing that. And that's Priest by Simone. The 4th book I read in March was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. I have been waiting patiently to read one of Miss Jimenez's works because people say that she does romance in the rom-com section very, very well. While her books are not overtly smutty at all, there was a little bit of spice, but I would not say there was like smut or anything like that. Like there's not like in-depth moments of the smut, so I kind of really enjoyed that break after reading something like Priest. I really am liking her rom-com writing and how she's doing the romance portions of it, but this book is about a big city girl and a small town guy. So we're talking about a girl named Alexis who is a ER doctor in this big, what I would imagine is kind of like Grey's Anatomy-esque type of hospital. Like it's a huge hospital and she has a legacy at this hospital. Her parents and her grandparents and her great-grandparents and her great-great-grandparents, they've all been a part of this hospital, and she is now an ER doctor. Her parents do not love that she is just a mere ER doctor. They want her to be some like, you know, renowned surgeon, but she's very happy being an ER doctor. She's in a relationship with a total piece of work. He kind of really sucks, and he emotionally manipulates her and abuses her, and they're at a breakup point right now, and she's headed home from one of her family members' funerals when she has to stop in this tiny little town on her way home because she has to get, I think, gas and something to eat. But she ends up hitting like a raccoon, or a raccoon like swerves in front of her and she like crashes her car. I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly what happened. This guy named Daniel from this small town pulls her out without, you know, asking for anything in return. And so she stops at the local diner bar, and because she really needs dinner, it's getting late, and he's there. And they kind of meet up from there. And he is the mayor of this quirky, tiny town called Walk On. It's just a really funny story. There's an age gap in which she is actually older. Alexis is the older person in this age gap. I gave this 4.5 stars rounded up. And I said, honestly, this slayed. Lots of tropes at play in this one. Like age gap. She was 37. He was 28, I believe. Big city girl, as I said, small town boy, rich. She's super rich. He's like not a lot of money coming from him. This is also like an opposites attract. Like their lives kind of would never interact in a normal way in a regular world, but in this world they do, only because of this semi-sentient city or town of Walk On. That was Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez, and I was about to already go into the next book, but I wanted to wrap that up. I would recommend it. I gave it 4.5 stars rounded up, and I thought it was a really good, solid rom-com, like very solid. The next book that I read, which is out of the romance genre and into YA mystery thriller, that's The Thrashers by Julie Soto. So The Thrashers follows an elite group of high school popular kids. There are 5 different people that are in this group. 4 of them come from very well-to-do families, and the other one who comes from a poor family, her name is Jody Dillon. She only has her dad, and her dad is kind of like alcoholic and semi on the borderline abusive, and in some points actually abusive to her. So she comes from a very different background than the other 4 kids in this friend group called The Thrashers, and it is all centered around one boy whose last name is Thrasher. And in this friend group of 5, they sometimes let in other people into the group just like for a minute. Just hang out with them, just kind of get to know them, make them their friend, and then they thrash them. So they basically kick them out of their friend group in the nicest way they can say that. But when a girl gets thrashed and there are mysterious circumstances around her death, which is made to look like a suicide, there are some questions from the police and local people around them. This book very much gave Pretty Little Liars in terms of the suspense and drama and the relationships between the characters and like the main 5 people in this friend group, and also the characters around them. It also dove into obsession and stalking and very intense life or death decisions. And there was a touch of the paranormal, which is what really reminded me of Pretty Little Liars. And I would read a whole series around this. It was pretty resolved at the end, but it did leave it kind of open-ended to where there could be another book in this series. And I would love to see it because The Thrashers was so fun, and I was locked in. I was locked the fuck into this book. And I like the tagline is just, you're either in or you're out. Like, what do you mean? Yeah, I want to be one of them, but also I don't want to be kicked out. I don't want to be a temporary member. I want to be a Thrasher. However, I don't want to be investigated for the mysterious death and surrounding of another fellow student, but I did enjoy The Thrashers by Julie Soto. I think I gave it 5 stars, or I rounded it up. I do a lot of 4.5 rounded up because I just cannot commit to the actual 5-star, but 4.5 stars rounded up. I would read this and all of Julie Soto's books, so highly recommend The Thrashers by Julie Soto. We're on to the 6th book of the month, and that would be Gifted and Talented by Olivie Blake. And on this channel, we ride or die for many authors. One of them is Olivie Blake. I love everything that she puts out, and this one I've been really hyped for. So Gifted and Talented follows 3 siblings who are trying to figure out which one of them is the heir to their dad's fortune. He has a ton of money, assets, and also the majority stakeholder share in this multi-million or even billion-dollar company that he founded in tech. And each one of the siblings have very distinct personalities and different traits that would make them horrible and also great leaders of this company. And it's a lot more like family drama-esque. Like, it is a lot of drama and not a lot of movement. I wish that the book moved a little bit more, so I gave it a 2.5 stars only because this book is, the whole thing is surrounding the dad's will and figuring out which one of them is the heir. And there's all these things that stand in the way of reading the will and finding out how the dad actually left his shares when he died. And the book really takes a look at each individual character and how they've ended up in this place that they are in now at the time of their father's death, and then the few days surrounding the planning of his funeral and figuring out when they're going to read the will. So a lot of the book feels like yapping, like for the sake of yapping. I do feel like this book was written for me because it is funny and heartbreaking and weird, and it has really interesting premises that hooked me. Like, I think one of the taglines of it was the pipeline of a gifted kid to a clinically depressed adult. Yeah, aren't we all? I think that Olivie Blake takes this existential dread that these characters feel and spin it into something so relatable and funny and woven in strangely to magic. Like, there is a sense, and not just a sense, there is like fantasy in this book in terms of magic, kind of like more witchcrafty type of magic, but still magic nonetheless. I really loved the philosophical tangents that they went on, and also the snark. Like, this book was full of snark. We're reading from a POV that is God, and it just like the cut to person, like cut to reader and fourth wall breaks was just so funny, so funny in this book. The only thing that I brought it down for was because it felt very long, and there were moments that I wished went a little bit faster. But overall, I did really enjoy the book. It's long, so you have to buckle in. It took me a while to read it. Okay, it took me like weeks and weeks to read it, but I did get through it slowly, and I did really like it by the end. Like, the last like 1/4 of the book I read very quickly because I just like really had to find out what was going to happen. But in the middle, there's points of it that drag. Go into it knowing that you may want to skim part of it. I did skim a little, just a few chapters where I was just like, I cannot listen to this insufferable woman talk one more time. But otherwise, I really did enjoy it, and it reminded me of the Umbrella Academy, just because everyone kind of has their own thing that they're doing in terms of their life and also their magical powers. The vibe is really funny. The magic is used very casually. It's very nonsensical. It's very fun. That's Gifted and Talented by Olivie Blake. We're winding down here. Book number 7 that I read was a Fear Street super chiller. Did y'all read Fear Street? Tell me y'all read Fear Street by R.L. Stine. What do y'all know about Fear Street by R.L. Stine? I didn't read Goosebumps. I wasn't one of those girls. I read Fear MFN Street. And I think I read every single one that my library had. They're all kind of the same. They all kind of tell me the same thing. They all kind of go through the same song and dance. However, this one was a super chiller, which means it was extra spooky. And it really wasn't. Okay, I was honestly low-key scared going into it because I don't read horror as an adult just because I don't want to get nightmares. And when I picked this up at Goodwill, because I was feeling like I needed the nostalgia in my life, I was like, oh, a super chiller? That's going to be so scary. It wasn't, but I did read it in like an hour and a half. I read the whole book in like an hour and a half. It was like 200 pages. And this one is called The New Year's Party by R.L. Stine. Fear Street Super Chiller. That's like the series that it's in. And this is about a girl named Renee. I think her name was Renee in the book. Let me look. Yes, so this says, ring in the new fear. PJ wasn't supposed to die. It was just a practical joke, no big deal. But PJ had a bad heart. And the kids at Renee's Christmas party couldn't tell the police what they'd done, so they hid the body. And then it disappeared. Now someone is killing them, one by one. Someone is taking PJ's revenge, but who? By midnight, they'll know. Because when the clock chimes, they'll all get a kiss. The kiss of death. That is a young adult horror, kind of like middle grade almost horror book. I gave it 4 stars. It was borderline spooky. It kind of gave exactly what I remembered it giving when I read all of these in middle school. And I love the paranormal aspects in all of the Fear Street novels, and I wish I could still find them. Like, I was looking for them because I honestly told my friends to be on the lookout for Fear Street novels because I kind of want to own them all. So if you guys have any Fear Street novels that you'd be willing to send to me, I'll pay you shipping. I'll pay you shipping for them. So if you have any Fear Street novels, or if you know where I can get them, that's like not super duper crazy. I've looked on eBay. It's out of this world. So I am looking for them at thrift shops, at yard sales. I want to read more of them because they're so fast. Like, I literally read it in an hour and a half before bed, and I felt very accomplished afterwards. So I liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I think 4 stars is generous, but for what it was, I have to also rate based off of what I know it is. And I know that this is like a borderline children's book. So that's The New Year's Party by R.L. Stine. We've been saving this one. Not really. It just happens to be the last book that I read in the month of March. Sunrise on the Reaping by Suzanne Collins. Suzanne, I need to know who hurt you this year. It's like you had a bad day, and every single day that was bad for you, you came home and you just decided, I'm going to take this out on Haymitch. So Sunrise on the Reaping is a prequel to the Hunger Games trilogy. This book is about Haymitch Abernathy, who in the Hunger Games original books that we read and we watched the movies too when we were in middle school and high school, Haymitch is the mentor to Katniss and Peeta because he is the only other person from District 12 that is alive and has won any of the Hunger Games. He won the 50th, which is the Quarter Quell. So in this prequel, Sunrise on the Reaping, we follow Haymitch through his Quarter Quell, so his Hunger Games that he went through and won. So obviously throughout the book, we are aware that he is the winner of this season of the Hunger Games, or that year's Hunger Games. We don't know the sad ass story that follows him surrounding all of his friends, all of his family, all of the people that he met while he was in the Hunger Games. Oh my God, Suzanne, you did not have to freaking do that to us. It was like painful. It was honestly painful, like heart-wrenching to read this novel. And it's like she took what we said about Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which was just like, oh, people were like, oh, it was mid. I didn't really connect to it. This one, she said, oh, you want connection? Connect to this, bitch. And like ripped our hearts out. Like, oh my God. It was absolutely so gut-wrenching to read every single page of this book almost. Like, oh, I mean, it was great. Don't get me wrong. I gave this book 4 stars. I didn't give it 5 because I did not like his POV. I didn't like reading from a teenage boy's perspective. And I know that was like the whole point of the book, but something about that, I just couldn't get over that hump. Otherwise, when you take it out of that context, it was a really great book and people love it. It literally has a 4.7 rating on Goodreads with almost 200,000 reviews. That's an insanely high rating. And I think that people have rated it 5 stars solely for the emotional impact that it had on them. I felt the pain and the sorrow and the anger that Haymitch felt. So this book, if you've ever read The Hunger Games, or if you've ever watched The Hunger Games and just remember Haymitch, you don't have to know any of that other stuff in order to read this, because this is a prequel. We do get some answers about the previous prequel, which was Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, which is about President Snow. So we do get some answers actually about some of the characters in that, but that's really not prevalent to this story, Sunrise on the Reaping. So you don't have to read that one to read Sunrise on the Reaping. I would recommend having read or watched The Hunger Games themselves, just so you kind of are familiar with Haymitch and you can understand why he makes the decisions that he makes in the Hunger Games books. So I want to not reread the books because I don't have the time to commit to that, but I would love to rewatch the movies because that sounds like a lot of fun. This book was not fun. I mean, it hurt. It hurt in a real way. And in my review, I just said, so Suzanne just hates Haymitch, question mark, question mark, question mark. I cannot perceive any other reason why she would do this to this man. Period. I don't know why she would do that. All of the reviews are like, currently crying. This is brutal. I can't believe that you've done this. What the actual fuck did I just read? All of these people are like, I can't believe this. Like, this hurts so bad. I'm crying my eyes out. I bawled myself to sleep tonight. The sun will rise tomorrow, but my hope has been lost. Screaming, crying, throwing up. I understand that. So there you go. Those are the 8 books that I read in March. I'm looking forward to April being a good reading month. Today's April 1st. I didn't even read a single sentence of a book today, but we're going to jump into that tomorrow. I actually have 2 books on my Goodreads that I've marked as reading that I have not even cracked open the first page. I'm hoping that the book that I'm going to pick up tomorrow, which is Bride by Ali Hazelwood, is going to just like propel me into a reading like frenzy. Loving you guys. Thank you for watching. If you've read any of these books or you're looking forward to reading these books, or if you have any books that I should add to my TBR for this year, please let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for staying this long. Have a good day, night, morning, evening, whatever it is to you, and goodbye.